Thank you all for taking the time to meet with us today to talk specifically about accelerating. It's really, at the end of the day, it's about accelerating conversion rates, accelerating the time to buy, and really, hopefully, by the end of this presentation, you'll get a few new ideas on how to leverage personalization in your marketing activities. So, this presentation is really, I know it's titled that it's focus that is really about new ideas for marketing agencies, but the reality is anything that I show you here today is applicable to anybody who's doing digital marketing. And I know there's a lot of people on the phone today that are already ActiveDEMAND users, so hopefully you'll get some ideas as to how to use the tools a little bit better. And hence, this is a master class, is that it is, again, focusing on people who are not using ActiveDEMAND, and definitely those folks that are using ActiveDEMAND today. So today I'm going to cover some of the challenges that we're all facing as marketers, and then I'm going to talk about journey automation or journey personalization, and give you a bunch of examples, specifically how we as a company are using the technology to drive our demand, and then I'll summarize things with some best practices, etc. So if you have questions at all, just definitely there's a question interface there, and by the end we'll have some open it up for some questions before you all leave. So first thing I just want to talk about again, like I said, is some of the challenges facing agencies, whether it's a case you're marketing for several retainers, or it's a case that you yourself are a marketer and trying to drive demand for your products and services. There's a bunch of challenges that we all face with digital marketing. And I think the first one, and this is something that isn't unique to digital marketing, it definitely was a challenge in the days when digital marketing didn't exist. It's really about building trust. But I think there's a bit of a challenge for us in digital marketing that's sort of new and unique to digital marketing is today, with people consuming digital assets, the first thing right out of the gate is not just build your trust, is they trust nothing. You know, when people are viewing things online, there's always this thing in the back of their head, you know, yeah, right, sure, show me. Because it's very easy to, I would say, there's lots of people that can mislead or whatever, because it's not like a store where you walk into a brick and mortar place and there's something behind the brand, so to speak. With online, it's very difficult for us to build trust, and quite often we end up eroding trust through inconsistent messaging, inconsistent response times, inconsistent branding. So definitely these are all challenges that we face as digital marketers. Another challenge, and this is also not unique to digital marketing, it's about the amount of manual effort required to actually drive demand. And as an agency, if you're driving demand for many, many clients, again, the work is, it's not just a bit of work, it's a lot of manual effort is the reality. We all wish it was nothing but being creative, but the reality is there is a manual component to our digital marketing efforts. And with manual effort, if you make mistakes, you're back to slide one where we're eroding trust. And I think this is also a bit of a challenge, unlike when we're doing marketing before digital marketing, and I know a lot of you probably don't remember these times, but it's a case that the attention span of the buyers was much longer, but it seems to me that the attention span of the buyers is getting shorter and shorter. And it's a case that these are measurements that you can actually see, is that the time on your web pages, which is known as the dwell time. I know Google says that less than 2 minutes is bad, but and then gut feel is that if you can get somebody to spend a few minutes on your web page, outstanding. And something you need to think about, I think, is what kind of dwell times are you getting with your marketing assets today? The other aspect is the visit depth and how many pages are being consumed. And again, this is a measurement of the engagement with your content and really how much of the very small attention span that you're allocated by the buyer are you able to capture and again get your message and build the brand, etc. And another challenge related to this, of course, is the conversion rates, and that's why we're all looking for new ways to enhance the conversion rates, is because again the attention span, I argue, is short, and it is getting shorter. Another challenge, and it's interesting, is that even though we may be selling a product or service that has a short sales cycle, it is actually, the journeys seem to be getting longer. And why? Is that if you think about the buyers, they want the best and they want to become the armchair expert before they buy, so they'll bounce around from website to website, whereas, you know, in earlier days, they might start the engagement, start talking, and then, you know, evolve to a buying decision. But I argue, even for a shorter sales cycle sale, the journey is getting longer because people are bouncing around, just taking little snapshots of things, trying to get a visual picture of what it is that they're buying. And what's interesting is even though it's a short sales cycle, and definitely for a long sales cycle, it's definitely intrinsic to the process that it's going to be a long journey. But if you think about it, buyers are bouncing around from website to website, and they might come back to your website for a second look, and they might not even know that they've been to your website before. That's how bad it is, right? Another challenge, and this is, I think, the biggest challenge, is anonymity. Anonymity is the enemy of the digital marketer, and it's a case that, like I say before, digital marketing was prevalent. You know, people would engage directly with people, but now there's this anonymous thing, and people are holding on to their anonymity longer and longer before they actually engage with the vendor. And while their anonymity is intact, you as the marketer don't really know what stage of the buyer journey they're in. You're not involved in the conversation. There is no conversation. There's people just consuming some of your digital assets. And this is another one that's always facing us, is in not just digital marketing and sales, et cetera, but specifically in digital marketing, is trade-offs, right? We always got to be making trade-offs. We got to be making decisions that, again, this is the foundation of strategy, but it's a case we're always making decisions, and the decisions end up carving off or alienating a group of people or potential customers. Like, for example, with this trade-off, there's only one customer profile. So, you know, it's a case that quite often when we're building websites, we have to think about what is that customer profile that we can optimize for. You know, if we think about Pareto's principle, let's try to get the 80% and optimize our website for that one customer. In actual reality, there's more than one profile, and you really end up making trade-offs to not alienate some of the potential customers. And another one is that there's only one landing page and a whole bunch of ads, right? So again, you've got to make trade-offs, or else I got to build 1,000 web pages, right? So there's always these trade-offs that we're faced with. Then in SEO, there's this one phrase per page, right? And how do we actually, you know, I know there's lots of, I could go on at length and talk about SEO, but again, I'm just trying to communicate as marketers we're faced with trade-offs. And I think that there's also many other challenges as well, and you know, it's I could talk again at length about some of the things facing us all, but I wanted to just sort of highlight some of the things that I believe that a solution to these problems is journey automation. And, or rather, not just journey automation, but journey personalization. And what is this journey automation and journey personalization that I'm talking about? And I define it as the use of data, dynamic content, and automation software to deliver a personalized experience for the buyer for the purpose of shortening the required engagement time for a purchasing decision. So it's really, if we think about why we personalize, and there's a good study, you can see a link down at the bottom that talked about this and why people were using personalization, and there's clearly lots of reasons for the marketers to be using personalization, and there's good strategy and rationale for it all. But I think the big one is on the right, is that customers actually like it. You know, there's an article there with Digital Trends talking about 73% of customers prefer to do business with brands that actually personalize the shopping experience. You know, I myself, you know, really like Google Now. It's a little bit creepy, but I think it's a game. It's use my data and actually do something meaningful with it. And the benefits are clear, is that the benefit to the buyer is that it reduces friction, it helps them, it reduces the amount of time they've got to wade through information and come to a buying decision. And it makes them feel as well somewhat unique in their needs. And if you think about the benefits to the marketer, it's the same story, is that it reduces friction, it accelerates the buyer journey, and it helps, again, drive content into the customer's space so that they can make a buying decision quicker. Now, we think about where people are doing the personalization today. You know, most people are using, like I think the survey showed, is email or social media or stuff like this, where they're using the person's name and trying to do some personalization there. But it's the case that if you look at the funnel, it's actually most of the personalization is done down at the bottom of the funnel once the anonymity is removed and we know some stuff about the prospect. But if it's a case you look at this funnel, it is funnel shaped for a reason. There's way more people up at the top than there is at the bottom. And if you think about where people are spending most of their marketing dollars, it's actually up at the top of the funnel where the most people are. Right? And this is where the biggest gains can be had. You know, if you make a 2% increase in your lower funnel activities, great, that's fantastic. But if you can convert, say, 2% of the people at the top of the funnel, it's actually a significantly higher number of people. So really the point is that you should be thinking about how you're leveraging the personalization at the top, and also thinking of the journey from the top of the funnel to the bottom of the funnel, and how you can accelerate this with the use of, again, personalization. So I think where to begin is a good question, and I think the first step is to, of course, collect data and get the data, have a good analysis of what the data is, understanding where people are engaging with your digital assets, and look at the people that have been buying from you, try to understand where they came from, and I know marketers are doing this type of stuff every day, but think of it in the context of the personalization. And also, you got to think about what tools do you have available in your inventory to add the personalization to the journey. And then build your development. I know a lot of people are focusing on the second bullet, which is the low funnel personalization strategies, and we're using dynamic fields in our emails and this type of stuff, and doing segmentation of our lists. But if you think about it, all of that's after the anonymity is gone. But I argue we should be thinking about the strategies in the early stages of the funnel before the anonymity has been removed. And if we think about the data, there's a ton of data that we have available to us, especially where people are coming from, you know, which ad groups, keywords, this type of stuff that are bringing people to our marketing assets, you know, what pages they consume, how much time they spend on the pages, what time of day they're engaging, etc. So there's a lot of stuff that is available to us as marketers, and I argue we need to leverage this to, again, accelerate and automate the buyer journey. So, you know, where I think it's important here, and this is where I'm going to be getting to, is really the contextual content and the role it plays in the personalized journeys. I know where, especially the folks in e-commerce, understand very well this concept of cart abandonment automation. It's really where they added a bunch of stuff to the cart and they leave, and we want to automate the process of getting these people back to the cart and trying to complete the sale. What I'm going to try to introduce as a concept is not cart automation, but cart abandonment automation, but page abandonment automation. So those folks that are not in e-commerce and those people that are in e-commerce, you know, if you imagine somebody comes to your website, they're consuming some data, and then they leave. You know, it's a case that and I mentioned this short attention span, chances are they're going to come back to the website and consume the exact same data again, which I think is a critical mistake. So really what I'm going to introduce is the concepts of trying to ensure that when the prospect comes back to your website, that the journey is a little bit shorter. Why force them through the same steps to get to the same conclusion? They don't, quite often, like I said, their attention span's so low, they don't even know that they've been back to your website. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the types of tools you can use to leverage the data and personalize and automate, again, this journey. So if we think about the anonymous visitor and the person who is very high funnel, typically the foundation of this engagement is going to be the website, right? Website and landing pages. And really, if we think about the website as our asset, I'm going to talk about how we can actually use this asset to better personalize the journey, and also remove some of these trade-offs that we're constantly forced with when we're engaging with these web assets. So if you look at this website here, and let's just change it a little bit. And now we're going to talk about the website where we're injecting people's names. We're changing the content of the website itself based on the data we've collected on the prospect. So the first place that you can actually use as a tool is injecting dynamic content in your website and your landing pages based on the context of the visit, how many times they've been there, what they did the last time they're on the website, etc. So there's an opportunity with your website to inject dynamic content and leverage, again, the data we've collected on the prospect in the previous visits. And then there's overlays on the website that are opportunities as well. And quite often I see people using these push-up bars here to try to get somebody to subscribe to a newsletter. But again, this is an opportunity to engage with the prospect, not just to get their email address, but it is dynamic content that you can overlay on any single page, and again, try to engage with the prospect with contextual data that moves them along, again, the buyer journey. And push-down bars is another one. Again, if we're able to, if the anonymity is gone, we can inject the person's name, but again, if there's another opportunity here to inject dynamic content into the buyer's view space, if you will. And then one that I like to use a lot, and that's really this these little tooltips and little helpers that, as the person is engaging on the website and they're browsing around, you can inject testimonials, you can inject content that leads them to more, you can recommend content, etc. So again, the concept here is to try to accelerate or reduce, I should say, the amount of steps it takes for somebody to come to a buying decision. And finally, it's the pop-up, right? And the pop-up is really your last chance effort to, if somebody's exiting the page, to try to get their attention, saying, hey, there's something else that we can do for you. And again, quite often we see these pop-ups as just being very static, where it's choose this page, and on this nth visit, let's do a pop-up. But I argue you can actually use these to dynamically inject content based on the history of the visitor, etc. So now what I'm going to do is, I've talked about some of the tools. I'm going to go into a set of examples, and most of these examples are related to, in fact, all these examples are related to how we as an organization are using the technology to, again, personalize the buyer journeys that we are for our software. And it's a case that as an agency, you'll hopefully get some ideas, or as a marketer, you'll get some ideas on how you're able to automate this and reduce the effort required to make this happen after you see these examples. So for those folks that are on the phone and are not currently using ActiveDEMAND, and the examples I'm using are going to be using the technology, I'll just give you a very brief introduction to what the technology is to give you context to what we're trying to do when we're marketing and using the personalization in the examples. So ActiveDEMAND is, if you think about marketers who are, this is typically the case for marketers. They're juggling a lot of different tools, digital tools, to try to, again, if they're marketing for a bunch of clients or they're marketing for themselves, they end up juggling all of these different tools to drive demand for their clients' products or services, or their products or services. And the problem with this challenge is that clearly with more tools, each tool does a great job, but they don't actually work together to drive demand. And the reporting aspect is extremely hard because, again, the data is embedded in each of these tools as opposed to a unified environment. And hence, that's really what ActiveDEMAND is a unified integrated marketing platform designed specifically for the multi-client marketer. And it works extremely well if you only have one client, which is your company, but there's also some great gains for those folks that have more than one client. So there's social media dissemination tools, there's email marketing tools, landing pages, automation, call tracking is a great piece, and of course right at the top is the analytics, which is pulls it all together because it's a unified environment. So again, and the piece that I'm going to focus on is the dynamic content tools, the landing pages in the examples that I'm going to be showing. So, but it does have more things, but again, I'm just trying to introduce what the product is. So the things that we're using are, what ActiveDEMAND has is this concept of a dynamic content stack. And the dynamic content stack is basically there's several versions of a specific piece of content. Each of the versions is tied with a specific query, a contextual query. So if you think about several versions in the stack, when it comes to the decision of which version of the stack is going to be presented, it goes through the sets of queries, finds the right one, and injects it into the landing pages, the pop-ups, or the dynamic images, etc. And for those of you that obviously you signed up for the webinar, the landing page you saw, it is injecting content based on this dynamic content stack that is being leveraged in, for example, the webinar promotion that we just did. But the examples I'll show you here will as well show you how the use of this type of technology. So the first example I'm going to give you is what I call referring source optimization. And really what it is, and this is what we did as an organization, is we did the analysis to see where is our web traffic coming from, right? And where are people coming to our website, you know, whether it's the paid ads or if it's the social dissemination of our content or the SEO, etc. And what we're looking for is not necessarily the highest conversion traffic, but the traffic that had with reasonable certainty a story that we could tell, and also the story would lead to where we're actually able to assist in the buying decision. So when we did the analysis, some of the places we had very low traffic, but a really great story. Other places we had reasonable traffic and a really good story. But again, if we could automate the buyer journey, we could accelerate the process, and then we could put the effort into those specific referring sources that were seeing the best results as a result of the personalization. So if we look here, one of the places that we targeted is CRM integration. Like we integrate with CRMs. One of the CRMs we integrate with is Pipedrive. And if you're on Pipedrive site and you grab Pipedrive as a CRM and you go to their integration section, you'll find us in a list of other folks, and they'll click this link here on Pipedrive site that'll take us back to our website. So we saw we were getting some traffic from Pipedrive, and also Salesforce and a bunch of other places as well. But here is a place that we know if somebody has a CRM, our marketing technology tools will help them drive people into the funnel. So if they click on this link, it's going to go to our website. And of course, we have the link encoded with a source medium, or we can look at the referring host, and we know that the person, when they get to our website, the page is going to talk clearly about how we integrate with Pipedrive. So that, of course, makes sense, that this page should talk about how we integrate with Pipedrive. But typically, the journey is not going to end there. Most likely, they're going to go look at the packages or look at the capabilities and start moving around our website. And if they do, we know the two questions that are being asked. Question number one is, what does ActiveDEMAND do? And the second question, which is extremely important, how does it integrate with the CRM, right? So what we do is we use this data to dynamically adapt the entire website to start telling the story about how well ActiveDEMAND integrates with Pipedrive. So if they go over to this, one of our packages, now the hero banner is now adapting, and it's talking about what? It's talking about how well it works with Pipedrive. They're going to learn about the product, our product, but we want to keep reinforcing the story that ActiveDEMAND integrates with Pipedrive. And as they browse down and start looking at the capabilities of our product, we'll start, sliding out little helpful hints and reminders about this same thing. We integrate with Pipedrive, and it's a great match. And of course, if somebody comes to our website and they didn't come from Pipedrive, or they didn't come from Pipedrive in a previous visit, there's no way we're going to be talking about Pipedrive, because we're not here to sell Pipedrive. We're here to accelerate the buyer journey. And if the anonymity is gone, we can start injecting the person's name into the dynamic pop-ups or into the landing pages or the site itself, again, to put a personalized spin on the journey. And then when they get to the landing page, again, the landing page, the same story, it's going to dynamically adapt. And the adapting is really to inject the content that's contextual based on the data we've collected on the prospect. And of course, this piece is dynamic, the forms, this stuff here may be static, but we can decide where the dynamic content happens. And of course, we're going to inject a pipe. Steve, the CEO, will pop up and talk about, how wonderful this is. Again, this is not going to happen if you're not coming in from Pipedrive. So the results, and we looked at several sources, CRMs as well as, our WordPress plugins. We were getting some traffic, and we actually saw a conversion rate lift of 200% on the segments that came from those sources that we optimized the journey for. And it makes sense because, again, we can align the content to the challenge that the prospect is actually doing. And this exact example is, it ports very nicely to any type of business. If you're doing a website, you know where people are coming from, why can't you automate the process is the point. So the next one is I'm going to talk about is target segmentation, and this is really about changing the assets based on the segment of your target prospects. So if you recall before, I talked about the trade-offs, and one of the trade-offs is what is the customer profile that your website's going to speak to. So, and quite often we're forced to keep a very high-level view of this segment, and again, generify it so we don't alienate some of the people that don't fit that specific segment. So this is an example of where I'm going to show you that we identified very specific end user profiles and went very deep for these end user profiles on the website. And again, we focused on and we identified we sell, clearly a lot of agencies and as well end users as the two profiles. And then we built out and dynamically adapted all of the assets to these two segments based on the information we had. So our main website, one of the things we injected, and this is actually customization, not personalization, and what we did is we actually put in on the main hero banner this question: do I market for one business or do I market for many clients? And it does a soft categorization of the two segments. And clearly, if we know the prospects or have been doing email marketing or do specific ads to these segments, we don't need to put this in front of the prospect. But for those people that actually we did not have segmented, we can actually do some customization that the prospect can actually make a choice. But then once we get the segmentation done, all of the hero banners completely change for that segment. So if you see here, for the business owner, all of the hero banners for each of the products, as well as the pop-ups, etc., are now changing to talk about that specific segment. So we're going deep on this one, as we're not talking anywhere on the site about agencies if we know that you're not an agency. But if we do know that you're an agency, all of a sudden the content shifts and the entire website becomes more focused on that specific profile, which is, I'm an agency looking to drive more retainers. So really, and it was amazing the results we got from this, and what we did is compared average depth, page depth and dwell time for the segments that we had categorized versus the segments that we didn't have the categorization for. And we saw our average depth go from 1.27 to 3.82 pages per visit, and our session length from 1 minute to 4 minutes for the segment. This is massive improvements. And what was also impressive is how many people actually did the self-segmentation. So there's some really good stats and some very good results from this elimination, if you will, of the trade-off of the specific customer profile. This next example, and this is where the anonymity has gone, it's a little bit further down the buyer journey, and I'm going to talk about specifically is email marketing. And I'm not going to talk about adding the name and the company and this type of stuff to emails, because I know everybody's doing that. What I'm going to do is instead change it up and talk about the time of engagement with the prospects. So really what we did is ActiveDEMAND collects a ton of data from the prospects, whether it's website visits, phone calls, website visits when they're anonymous, to once the anonymity is gone, anytime they phone, chats, email engagement, link clicks, all of this stuff we're collecting, and we leveraged an algorithm in ActiveDEMAND to personalize when the emails are being sent. And so really when we and this was an automated process, which is called ActiveDEMAND's predictive send. And basically, when we send a campaign, we let ActiveDEMAND's algorithms decide when we're actually going to send to the prospects. And as you see here, it builds out a dynamic timing for the prospects. And the results were quite amazing. Is that clearly without using predictive send, we were getting not very good open rates, like in the low end of 16% with the high end of about 22%. But as soon as we went to predictive send, we actually got a lift of up to 36%. And that was, and it makes sense, because if we're doing global marketing, we let the person decide when is the right time for them to receive the emails. So this next one, and this is, I know a lot of the agencies out there are doing, they spend a lot of time with SEO and they spend a lot of time with ad spend, and I'm going to talk here about using the ad groups and the keyword strategies, etc., to again provide more value or contextual content based on the visit. So what we did here is we identified specific competitors, right? We were going to target specific competitors. And the competitors, we'd look at keyword groups where people are searching for alternative to competitor A, competitor, so, Acme Inc. competitors keywords, and a whole bunch of other keywords related to our competitors, right? And then what we did is we built dynamic blocks that were keyed to the value track parameters, or the keyword groups, or the keywords that were searched, and we adapted the landing pages dynamically based on how they actually got to the page. So if they searched for competitor A and they looked for a bunch, they clicked on our ad, they get to our landing page. Our landing page completely talks about how we address the problem of what is the benefit of our solution compared to our competitors. So, for example, we have an outstanding landing page solution, and there's lots of people out there that are using, for example, Unbounce. So if people are searching for Unbounce solutions, it's a case that they'll use the keywords in the ads, they'll come back to our landing page. Our landing page will completely adapt to the person who's looking for this competitor on just landing pages. And, you know, it's a case this page will start injecting the checkbox matrices, we'll be mentioning it, etc. So really, it's a case that we've focused the effort on the specific keywords, so again, providing more value. So the results, and this is something relatively new, so we're still collecting the data, but clearly from a time perspective, and if we think about the amount of time it takes us to build landing pages, etc., we already know what the competitors are and the keywords are. We use one landing page and we just adapt the content with the queries. So it's very quick for us to clone out content blocks based on the specific competitor. And instead of building like 50 landing pages with different targeting, we built one landing page, and it was very quick and easy for us to, again, dynamically adapt this landing page to the different competitors. So there's a few examples, and again, these examples are clearly in the context of us driving our demand, but hopefully you can see or get some ideas of how you can automate this process for your clients, or if you're marketing for yourself, it's a case that you can leverage some of this technology or these ideas to personalize the journey. So I'm going to talk a little bit about best practices, and I'm also going to talk about some things to watch out for when you're doing this, this journey automation. So I think it's important, and hopefully it's been clear, is context is everything, right? Is that you want to provide contextual content to the visitor based on not just their current visit, but their previous visits. You want to rationalize the approach. You got to put a strategy in place and use the behavioral content, and don't forget to actually engage from an emotional perspective. Focus on the anonymous visitor. Get the high funnel activities is I think, a great thing. And I think that if you're get the right tools, I think is an important message here too, is you need to consolidate as opposed to using a whole bunch of different disparate tools. And deliver value. You got to be thinking about what's in it for me, for the prospect. How do you help them make the decisions that they need to make? And I think the drawbacks is that if you get the wrong message to the wrong person, it isn't so nice. And as well as you have to think about you've got to get the robot out of the room, so to speak, and really trying to make it not seem so robotic and more like there is a personal journey is a challenge that we all face. So I think the summary of this all is I think I hopefully introduced some challenges that I think we all know exist. Building trust, there's a ton of effort in our marketing, the decreasing or diminishing attention span of our prospects, the longer journeys and anonymity and some of the trade-offs. And hopefully I've made an argument for really personalizing and automating the journey will get higher engagement, it'll reduce the time of engagement and also improve the results. So with that, that's pretty much the entire content, and I think now we're going to enter into the questions phase of the webinar.